Imagine stepping into a museum nestled in the heart of Bogota, where behind glass cases lie tiny golden effigies, each no longer than your thumb. These shimmering objects, barely 5 centimeters in length, have sparked one of the most bewildering debates in modern archaeology. Now consider this. During the 1990s, a group of German engineers acquired exact replicas of these figurines, crafted molds from them, and constructed miniature flying machines based on their peculiar shapes. To the astonishment of many, those model aircraft actually lifted off the ground and soared through the air. But that is only half of the story. At the exact same historical moment, dwelling in the mist-veiled peaks of the northern mountains within that very nation, there exists an indigenous community that has never adopted writing or the wheel. Over the past 5 centuries, they have emerged from their seclusion to interface with the outside world on merely 2 occasions. And on both instances, their sole purpose was to deliver a dire warning to humanity. Both of these claims are thoroughly documented and verifiable. You could confirm their authenticity right now, from the comfort of your chair, using nothing more than an internet connection. This narrative is not about sandy beaches or aromatic coffee. It centers on Colombia, that slender land bridge connecting 2 vast oceans, where beneath the soil and within the solid rock, remnants have been concealed that, according to every conventional historical framework, should never have materialized or endured. The ancient civilizations that once inhabited this terrain bequeath to us not a single inscribed sentence. There exists no alphabet, no numerical system, no chronicle of their reigns. Yet they managed to carve stone blocks heavier than their own bodies, excavate tunnels plunging to depths equivalent to a 3-story building, and manipulate gold with astonishing sophistication. Consequently, 15 centuries later, the pursuit of that precious metal drove half of Europe into a frenzy of exploration and conquest. My ambition is to traverse this nation from its southern frontier to its northern coast, beginning with the stone effigies that stand guard in the upper basin of the Grand Magdalena River, and concluding with the living descendants of those same builders who reside atop the loftiest coastal mountain on Earth. Along this route, I have identified 6 pivotal sites, and at every one, a single haunting question will grow increasingly insistent. How did they possess this knowledge? Overlooking all of this, shrouded in perpetual fog and cloud, dwell the people who designate themselves as the elder siblings of the human family. These elder brothers continue to observe our every move. I have chosen to recount the enigma of the golden figurines midway through our expedition, precisely because those artifacts have persuaded a portion of the global population that extraterrestrial intelligences must have influenced their creation. As for the mountain dwellers who descended bearing their cautionary message, I have reserved their revelation for the culminating moment. Because once you hear their words, you will find yourself struck silent. The most potent impact awaits you in the finale. Let us commence our journey with the mute sentinels that have remained fixed in open fields for nearly 2 millennia. These are the stone guardians of San Agustin. In the southern reaches of Colombia, within the department known as Huila, near the headwaters of the Magdalena River, a remarkable assembly of stone figures emerges from the verdant hillsides. More than 600 of these monolithic sculptures are scattered across the landscape, representing the densest collection of megalithic carvings in the entirety of Latin America. In recognition of their universal value, UNESCO inscribed this archaeological park onto its World Heritage roster in the year 1995. Approach any single statue at close range, and an involuntary shiver will trace its way down your spine. Their facial features are striking and menacing, rectangular mouths armed with protruding fangs reminiscent of a jaguar's lethal bite, and eyes that bulge outward as if frozen in a state of perpetual astonishment. Some of these figures clutch diminutive children against their chests, while others brandish weapons of war. The tallest among them rise beyond 4 meters in height and tip the scales at several metric tons. The artisans who shaped them chose dense volcanic tuff and cooled lava as their medium, materials that have withstood the ravages of weather and time. Now we arrive at the puzzle that continues to torment archaeologists and historians to this day. We possess absolutely no identification of the culture that produced these works. The civilization we call San Agustin left behind no written records, no names of their rulers, no linguistic traces, nor even a term by which they referred to themselves. Mainstream scholarly consensus places the apogee of this society somewhere between the 1st and 6th centuries of the Common Era, yet the precise chronology remains slippery, because there is no organic matter suitable for radiocarbon dating. These people simply appeared, carved hundreds of enormous boulders into anthropomorphic forms, erected burial mounds over their chieftains that spanned up to 30 meters in diameter, and then vanished from the historical record without explanation. Hern Nardnies, an archaeologist who was born and raised in this very region, candidly admits that the paramount mystery is why the sculpting tradition abruptly ceased around the 10th century. Was it climate change, a volcanic catastrophe, or armed conflict with neighboring tribes? Thus far, no hypothesis has gained unanimous acceptance. The first outsider to conduct a systematic investigation was a German scholar named Konrad Theodor Prius, an ethnologist who navigated the Magdalena River in 1913 and initiated the inaugural scientific excavations at the site. He also created more than 20 statues and shipped them to Berlin, where several of them remain on display even now. Since 2017, the Colombian government has formally requested their repatriation, but the German authorities have not yet complied. However, the existence of these idols was known to the outside world much earlier. As far back as 1756, a Spanish monk by the name of Juan de Santa Gertrudis happened to pass through the area and documented the stone effigies in his treatise on natural wonders. What truly confounds researchers is the technological disparity evident in their material culture. Their ceramic production remained rather rudimentary, yet they demonstrated a mastery of metallurgy, casting gold with precision using the tumbaga alloy, a mixture of gold and copper. In essence, they could not fashion a simple cooking pot with finesse, but they excelled at complex metalworking. There is also a remarkable engineering feature at the Lavapatos Spring, where the stone bed of a creek has been intricately carved with channels, grooves, and symbolic figures that directed the flow of water. Someone, long ago, meticulously calculated the gradient and orchestrated the stream to follow a deliberate, decorative path. Among the most celebrated sculptures is one known as El Doble Yo, or the double self, depicting a human form with a second smaller figure perched upon its head. A detail that has lodged itself in my consciousness is the recurrence of the same jaguar maw motif among entirely distinct peoples inhabiting the Amazon basin hundreds of kilometers away. It seems as though there existed a shared archetype, a collective dread, a universal forest deity whose visage was recognized across vast distances. Some researchers cautiously acknowledge this coincidence, but it is difficult to dismiss as mere happenstance. For our journey, it is crucial to note that the same volcanic tuff and stylistic signatures will reappear approximately 100 kilometers to the north. Though, in that location, the builders eschewed open-air sentinels and instead retreated beneath the earth. Before we descend into those subterranean chambers, I extend a brief invitation to you, the viewer. Please take a moment to indicate in the comments section from which corner of the globe you are currently watching this presentation. Share your city, your country, or at least your continent. I am genuinely fascinated to learn how far these chronicles of wonder and mystery have traveled. With that, we proceed to our next destination. Tierra Dentro, which translates roughly to inside the earth, is a name that could not be more literal. Envision yourself standing atop a mountain ridge in the department of Cauca. At your feet yawns a narrow crevice, leading to a spiral staircase hewn from solid stone, vanishing into a darkness so profound it seems to swallow all light. You begin your descent, plunging 5 to 7 meters, and in certain spots nearly 9 meters deep into the bedrock. The atmosphere grows damp and weighty, pressing against your lungs. When you ignite a flashlight, its beam carves through the gloom to reveal walls adorned with pigments of crimson, charcoal black, and chalk white. Geometric motifs intermingle with enormous anthropomorphic faces that stare out from the abyss of perpetual night. Archaeologists have cataloged 162 such burial vaults, constituting the largest aggregation of shaft tombs with lateral chambers anywhere in the Americas. Since 1995, this necropolis has also enjoyed UNESCO World Heritage status. Radiocarbon analysis situates these interments roughly between the 6th and 10th centuries after Christ, and some of the chambers expand to 12 meters in width. Now, pause and ponder a deceptively simple question. How in the world were these excavated? Without the benefit of iron tools or steel pickaxes, the ancient diggers managed to carve a helical staircase and a commodious hall into unyielding tuff, then transport countless tons of excavated stone to the surface. Even more astonishing is the execution of the wall paintings at such depths, where sunlight has never penetrated. They labored in absolute blackness, relying on tactile sensation and the feeble glow of torches that consumed precious oxygen within the confined shafts. No universally accepted explanation has yet emerged to resolve this conundrum. The initial serious investigation of Tierra Dentro occurred in 1936, when a German geologist named Georg Berg collaborated with a Spanish researcher and a Colombian counterpart. 4 years later, in 1940, the archaeologist Eliezer Silva Celis extracted funerary urns from these crypts, bearing molded faces of both humans and animals. Ever since, the debate regarding construction methods has raged without resolution, because each proposed theory fails to account for all the evidence. The interior decoration is anything but arbitrary. It faithfully replicates the architectural ornamentation of the dwellings that the living occupied above ground. It appears that the deceased were provided with an eternal, subterranean version of their former homes, a dwelling for the afterlife. The culture responsible for these burials did not collapse overnight. Their traditions persisted well into the 15th century, though by 2012 UNESCO had placed Tierra Dentro on its list of endangered sites, citing the erosion of soft tuff by landslides and torrential rains. The painted faces are gradually dissolving into oblivion. A conservator who has spent years working within these tombs by artificial light describes the experience with poignant simplicity. You feel like a child recounting a ghost story around a campfire. You elevate your torch, and a stone visage the size of a full-grown human stares back at you from the rock face. The entrances of these sepulchres are oriented toward the setting sun, to the west, as if the architects were dispatching their departed souls to follow the dying light. This preoccupation with celestial alignments, cardinal points, and the journey beyond the horizon will resurface later in our narrative, though the next set of paintings will not lie underground but upon a vertical cliff, and they will be situated not in the Andes but deep within the Amazonian jungle. That site is known as the Serrana de la Lindosa. The Serrana de la Lindosa is a wall that has become the battleground for a fierce academic dispute spanning centuries. Located in the department of Guaviare, where the Andean foothills dwindle into an expansive green plain, this region features reddish sandstone outcrops that rise abruptly from the rainforest canopy. Stretching along these escarpments for approximately 13 kilometers is an uninterrupted frieze of ochre-colored illustrations. Thousands upon thousands of figures are depicted: human silhouettes, deer, turtles, fish, lizards, and open palms, alongside an assortment of enigmatic geometric symbols. Journalists have christened this location the Sistine Chapel of the Ancients, a comparison that underscores its monumental artistic value. However, the true controversy erupted when researchers turned their attention to the dating of these paintings. A collaborative team led by archaeologist Jose Iriarte of the University of Exeter, working alongside Colombian botanist Gaspar Morcote Rios, published findings asserting that a portion of the imagery dates back to the terminal Pleistocene, roughly 12,600 years before the present. Their research appeared in reputable scientific journals, including the Proceedings of the Royal Society of London. And then came the revelation that left the public breathless. The scientists claim to have identified among the figures several extinct megafauna: a giant ground sloth towering to the height of an elephant, ancient equids, and proboscidean creatures that had vanished from South America over 10 millennia ago. If these identifications hold true, then we are confronting eyewitness accounts of Ice Age behemoths, rendered by human hands that actually observed them in the flesh. Yet not all experts are persuaded, and the ensuing debate has been acrimonious. Some critics contend that the pigments are too vividly preserved for such an extreme antiquity. Others, including researchers Urbina and P., have directly challenged the identification of horses and camelids, arguing that these animals only appeared on the continent after Spanish colonization. As for the purported giant sloth, they suggest it is merely a capybara, a large rodent still common in the region. Iriarte and his allies have rebutted each objection with counter-arguments, but the dispute remains unresolved, primarily because direct dating of rock art is notoriously difficult. There is one particular panel at Cerro Azul, dubbed the Panel of the Tappers, where the most contentious figures are concentrated. The strongest evidence favoring great age comes from the discovery of ochre fragments in the sediment layers directly beneath the paintings. Those layers, when subjected to radiocarbon analysis, indeed fall within the terminal Ice Age period. This indicates that pigment was ground and utilized at this spot a very long time ago, but the essential question persists: are all of the painted images co-equal with that ancient ochre? I must confess that I find this honest scholarly disagreement far more compelling than any romantic legend, because the wall is genuine, the artwork is undeniable, and two factions of scientists have spent years unable to reach consensus on the chronology and subject matter. Incidentally, the first written account of these murals was provided in the 19th century by the geographer Agustin Codazzi, after whom the Colombian Institute of Geography is named. Thus, the popular notion that they were discovered only recently is inaccurate. Indigenous communities have always known about them, and the wider world only gasped in astonishment around 2020, when a documentary crew finally gained access and broadcast the ochre ribbon to a global audience. Pigment endures for millennia on stone surfaces, but what endures even longer, and also possesses the ability to traverse continents, is gold. And the most sensational golden narrative from this country begins with a handful of miniature effigies that continue to confound rational explanation. This is the gold of the Quimbaya civilization, figurines that appear to fly. The Quimbaya culture flourished in the valley of the Cauca River, achieving its zenith roughly between the 1st and 7th centuries of our era. Their goldsmiths were so extraordinarily skilled that even contemporary jewelers stand in awe of their craftsmanship. Among their vast repertoire of ornaments and ritual objects are diminutive figures measuring a mere 5 to 7 centimeters in length. And it is here that the controversy ignites, because some of these tiny artifacts bear a striking resemblance to modern aircraft. They possess what appear to be triangular wings, a fuselage-like body, and a vertical stabilizer at the rear. No avian creature exhibits such features, no bird carries its wings beneath its body, or develops a tail rudder. When I first scrutinized high-resolution photographs of these objects, I spent a full 30 minutes staring in disbelief because my cognitive faculties simply refused to accept that these could be representations of dragonflies or other insects. Naturally, this visual anomaly was seized upon by proponents of ancient astronaut theories. A hypothesis emerged positing that these were scale models of flying machines, or even commemorative artifacts of encounters with celestial visitors. The speculative fire was further stoked by a popular television series dedicated to the notion of extraterrestrial intervention in antiquity. During the 1990s, German enthusiasts, among them Peter Belting and Algund Einboom, constructed radio-controlled model airplanes inspired directly by the Quimbaya figurines. Their creations achieved stable flight, powered by small electric motors and even equipped with landing gear. However, we must now introduce a crucial correction, because omitting it would constitute intellectual dishonesty. Virtually all laypeople interpret this as conclusive proof of ancient aviation technology. In reality, the overwhelming majority of archaeologists interpret these figurines as stylized depictions of local fauna, birds, flying fish, insects, or stingrays. The German models that took to the air were not autonomous, they had modern engines attached, and their aerodynamic proportions were deliberately adjusted for flight. Consequently, we are confronted with a genuine puzzle of artistic form, but not a blueprint for an ancient aerospace factory. The debate over the precise intention of the Quimbaya goldsmiths continues to divide specialists, and no definitive resolution has been achieved. What remains incontrovertible, however, is their metallurgical prowess. They worked with tumbaga, an alloy of gold and copper, employing a depletion gilding technique that dissolved the copper from the surface, leaving a radiant layer of nearly pure gold, while the interior retained a lower gold content. Such gold resists tarnishing remarkably well. Even after half a millennium, it gleams as if freshly cast. By the way, the crowning achievement of this jewelry tradition resides in the same Bogot museum that houses the figurines. It is known as the Poporo Quimbaya, a small golden vessel weighing approximately 770 grams, created via the lost wax casting method around 300 AD. This receptacle was used to store powdered lime, which was chewed alongside coca leaves during ceremonial rituals. Because of such extraordinary goldwork, Europe succumbed to a collective delirium. The Spaniards, upon hearing tales of a chieftain who was coated in gold dust and ceremonially bathed in a sacred lake, transformed that account into the fantasy of an entire city, built entirely of the precious metal. They christened this chimera El Dorado. It is worthwhile to pause here because nearly everyone envisions El Dorado as a mythical golden metropolis. In truth, the legend had a very concrete and historically authentic foundation. The Muisca people, inhabiting the mountainous plateau around present-day Bogot, conducted a ritual on the hallowed waters of Lake Guatavita. Their new ruler was anointed with resin, dusted with gold particles, placed upon a raft, and in the midst of the lake he cast offerings of gold and emeralds into the depths to appease the deities. This was the Golden Man, El Hombre Dorado. The Spanish conquistadors heard about the Golden Man and misinterpreted it as a golden city. The Muisca territory yielded almost no gold of its own. They acquired it through trade. Yet the invaders remained undeterred. They attempted to drain Guatavita and relentlessly searched for a city that never existed. The ritual itself, however, was no fabrication. In 1969, 3 peasants unearthed a clay vessel in a cave near Pasca, and inside it they discovered a golden figurine depicting a raft, a chief adorned with a feather headdress, surrounded by oarsmen. It measured 20 centimeters in length and weighed 287 grams of gold alloy, cast using the lost wax method. That very ceremony, immortalized in metal, is now the centerpiece of the Gold Museum in Bogotá. The obsessive quest for the Golden City eventually guided the Spaniards to the loftiest peaks of the country, to a place that the jungle had completely swallowed. And while we are on the subject of justice, it is worth noting that the principal Quimbaya gold collection, comprising more than 100 pieces, was gifted to Spain by Colombian President Carlos Holguin in 1892. It remains in Madrid to this day. In 2017, the Constitutional Court of Colombia decreed that it should be returned to its homeland, yet the repatriation has not been effectuated. Now we turn to the Lost City, an archaeological marvel that predates Machu Picchu. Pose the following question to any individual: which is the most renowned lost city in South America? The overwhelming majority will immediately reply to Machu Picchu in Peru. However, the conventional textbook narrative falters here, and the discrepancy is readily demonstrable. In the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, a mountain range in northern Colombia, buried beneath dense jungle foliage, lies a city that the indigenous inhabitants call Tayuna, though the outside world knows it as Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City. It was constructed by the Tairona people around the year 800 AD, which is a full 650 years before the Incas laid the foundation stone of Machu Picchu. To reach this hidden settlement, you must trek for several days through humid, treacherous forest, and finally ascend nearly 1,200 stone steps painstakingly carved into the precipitous mountainside. At the summit, you are greeted by 169 circular terraces, meticulously paved with stone slabs, interconnected by cobbled pathways and stairways. Concealed beneath the flagstones is an elaborate drainage system that channeled tropical downpours away, preventing the slopes from collapsing for over a millennium. During its peak period, the population ranged between 2,000 and 8,000 inhabitants, and it served as the capital of an extensive network of highland villages. The Tairona were tenacious people. When the Spaniards advanced from the coast and easily overpowered the lowland tribes, the Tairona retreated to higher elevations and resisted for more than 100 years, transforming the sheer mountain gradients into a formidable defensive advantage. On the flat boulders near the city, they engraved topographic maps of the surrounding terrain, depicting rivers and trails with remarkable accuracy. A society devoid of writing nonetheless produced cartographic representations on stone. The city was rediscovered by chance and under unfortunate circumstances. In 1972, a group of grave robbers known as guaqueros stumbled upon the long staircase, which they themselves referred to as the Stairway to Heaven. They were searching for Tairona gold artifacts and pillaged ancient tombs until too many conspicuous items flooded the black market and drew official attention. Only then, beginning in 1976, did archaeologists arrive on the scene, among them Gilberto Caravid and Luis Fernando Herrera. What followed bordered on the incredible. The very same guaqueros who had desecrated the site eventually assisted in its restoration, because they possessed unparalleled knowledge of the precise locations of each terrace, pathway, and staircase. Later, airborne laser scanning technology revealed more than 200 additional structures hidden beneath the forest canopy. Since the Tairona left no written records, virtually everything we know about this city has been painstakingly reconstructed from the stone remains and from the oral traditions of their living descendants, because the Tairona did not vanish. Their direct heirs, the Kogi and Wiwa peoples, have resided in the vicinity throughout the centuries, visiting the site as a sacred sanctuary, and they have always known the way, while the outside world erroneously presumed the city to be lost. The elder brothers are still watching. For them, Tayuna is not a dilapidated ruin or a tourist attraction. It is the very heart of their ancestral territory, and it is at this juncture that our chronicle takes its final, unexpected turn. In 1988, a British documentary filmmaker named Alan Herrera traveled to these mountains with the intention of producing a film about the lost city. He fought his way through the jungle, a domain controlled by guerrilla factions and drug traffickers, all in pursuit of ancient stones. However, he inadvertently encountered something far more vibrant and alarming: living individuals who observed him from above and had already formulated a message for the entire world. This was the Kogi people. The Kogi are those who descended to deliver their warning. High in the Sierra Nevada, upon a peak that ascends nearly 6 kilometers from the Caribbean shoreline, dwells the Kogi community, numbering approximately 12,000 souls scattered across hundreds of minute hamlets. They are the direct biological and cultural descendants of the Tairona. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived, the Kogi did not fight to the bitter end. Instead, they withdrew to even higher altitudes, to the cloud-shrouded summits where the Europeans could not follow, thereby safeguarding their way of life virtually intact to the present day. They refer to themselves as the Elder Brothers, and they designate us, the remainder of humanity with our engines and concrete structures, as the younger brother, not out of arrogance, but out of a profound sense of responsibility. In their cosmology, they are tasked with preserving the equilibrium of the planet, and they call their mountain the heart of the world. They speak of it as a living organism, where rivers are veins and coastal lagoons are wombs. Their spiritual guides are known as mamos, and it is here that I consistently pause in awe. A future mamo is taken from his mother during infancy and raised in complete darkness, sometimes for nearly 9 years, so that he may learn to attune his senses to what they call a luna, the concealed intelligence that animates the visible world. A child who does not behold the sun for years ultimately acquires a capacity to interpret reality in a manner fundamentally different from our own. Over the past 5 centuries, the Kogi have opened their doors to the outside world on only 2 significant occasions, and neither visit was motivated by a desire for wealth, fame, or assistance. Both times, their sole objective was to issue a warning. In 1990, they allowed Alan Herrera himself to enter their domain, and through his lens they conveyed a simple yet terrifying truth to the younger brother: we are destroying the mountain. The snow upon the peaks is melting. The migratory paths of birds are shifting. The rivers are drying up. If the younger brother does not halt his destructive course, the entire world will spiral into catastrophe. Their film was screened at a major environmental summit in Rio de Janeiro, and the assembled delegates listened in breathless silence. In 2012, the Kogi emerged once more, for a second time, because they perceived that their initial message had fallen on deaf ears. Within that second encounter, there exists a frame that never fails to send chills down my spine. A scientist displays to an elderly mamo a photograph of deep space captured by a telescope, revealing thousands of white specks against an infinite black void. The scientist explains that the naked eye cannot distinguish these objects individually. The mamo studies the image, then calmly places his finger upon a single dot and declares, "That is a star. The rest are galaxies." He is entirely correct. The Kogi do not measure time or space as we do. Around their sacred mountain, they maintain an invisible demarcation called the Black Line, which connects 54 hallowed sites. Since 1976, the Colombian state has officially recognized this boundary. Before extracting any resource from nature, whether water, a plant, or a stone, the mamo performs a pagamento, a spiritual compensation, by depositing an offering of coca leaves. The underlying philosophy is elegantly simple. For every acquisition, you must render recompense. Kogi women weave mochila bags, and according to the elders, the geometric patterns woven into these textiles encode stellar cycles and the agricultural calendar. In the second documentary, the Kogi accomplished something almost inconceivable. A people without any written tradition took hold of video cameras, trained their own operators, and produced the visual message themselves. To demonstrate the interconnectedness of all things, the mamos stretched a golden thread across the earth for hundreds of kilometers, from the mouth of one river to the mouth of another. This was their means of articulating a straightforward principle. Any action you perform at the ocean will have repercussions at the mountain source. Scientists who were shown this demonstration conceded that the Kogi are profoundly correct in their ecological insights. One of the elderly mamos once uttered a phrase that has etched itself into my memory. "We once possessed golden spindles, before the younger brother took them away." The spindle, he explained, is the most ancient machine. A civilization without writing or the wheel refers to a spinning device as a machine and retains an unbroken memory of the gold that was wrested from them. Their initial film concluded with a quiet yet severe image. A Kogi man silently closes the bridge leading to his mountain and retreats to the heights, leaving the younger brother alone to contemplate the consequences of his actions. And there, in that final gesture, lies the answer to the question that has propelled us from the outset. Where did they acquire all of this knowledge? Perhaps the truth is that certain individuals never ceased to understand. While we expended our energies searching for lost cities, restoring and dating lifeless stones, the living custodians of those stones were patiently waiting above in the mist, anticipating the day when we would finally lift our gaze and recognize them. If this exploration into Colombia's forgotten mysteries has ignited your curiosity, I urge you to engage with this channel. Please leave a comment below sharing your hometown and country, because I am eager to discover the global reach of these ancient enigmas. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Forbidden Fathoms. We dive deep into the shadows of history, unearthing secrets that challenge our understanding of human civilization. Your support helps us continue this quest for truth. Share this video with fellow adventurers and thinkers, and let us know which of these revelations astonished you the most. Until our next descent into the unknown, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember that the elder brothers are still watching over us all.